Most noble citizens, we must bypass a life of dormancy and vice to pursue the generative endeavor of a hard day's work. The benefits of these pursuits are not secured by chance or charity, but through the merit of your character and the firmness of your convictions. It is you who are planting the seeds of trees whose shade you know you shall never see.
Hello, welcome. We're in. It's the Broken Wind Podcast. We got a very great episode for you today. It's myself and the super producer Vane, and myself, Butler, at Butler's Coast, of course. And then we got at Pervert Party, my homie, Axiom himself. What's going on, dude? What's crack-a-lackin'?
Pervert Pirate Party, what's up?
Yep. I was just liking your posts earlier today because there's a lot of good ones in there. We could kill time with just reading some of those if we really need to.
I have really great thoughts that only fucking 25 people could possibly see on there. Although I'm thinking about deleting that shit. I don't know. It's not fun enough that it's ruined my life, but it's also not fun enough that I really feel a strong need to keep it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very detached from Blue Sky in my own way, which is kind of exactly the relationship I want to have with my social media. And I will say, man, I think you got good quality posts on there. So keep they're lucky to have you posted for them.
Thank you. Although, I don't know. Social media has really sucked since that fucking dress. I feel like nobody has enjoyed it since we're all like, what color is the dress?
That's such an interesting moment to point to as when it really started to suck. But
there was the audio equivalent of Yanni Laurel. Close enough to the same time, I would say.
No idea who Yanni Laurel is.
You didn't hear about that one? The sound that people were hearing is two completely different sounds.
Oh, I bet I would recognize it if you played it for me.
It was like one hearing was like Laurel, and then the other was like
Yanni.
And it really was just a phenomenon of sound reproduction from different systems and people's different perception of sound as well.
Well, yeah, people being confronted with the reality that everyone's subjectivity varies to surprising degrees, and even things that can seem like they would be objective can be like A and B depending on the person you ask.
It was if you had a sound system that produced low enough frequencies, you would hear Laurel, but then if you didn't have sound below a frequency, you would hear the high end, which sounded more like Yanni.
Right.
But it was one sound, and everyone would disagree, just like with the dress, on what color it was.
Well, although the dress was an actual optical thing, because you could there were directions to look at a certain spot on the dress to make it switch from one perspective to another. Which is kind of interesting.
Exactly.
The dress was a weird.
And that happened with the Laurel Yanni. It was you could listen on different systems and hear each result. I listened to both results.
Yeah. Well, also we were doing a bit before we got started. I want to make sure to share with one of my co-hosts on mic because it was getting us pretty good. Where we do our vocal warm-ups before we start, but we do things that are clearly just bad for your voice. My favorite vocal warm-up is going to be scream like you just got scared by a spider. Just 3 sets of that's the warm-up.
What you want to do is you want to just shock your vocal cords into a calm state. And that's how you get them ready.
That's what we do to get ready for this podcast. So that's what's been happening, just to pull the curtain back a little bit for the listener. Thank you for listening if you are. And we like to start, we're going to do a news episode today. We like to start them off with a little bit of a lighter fare whenever that's available, which is always on short supply these days. But one thing I wanted to present as good lighter fare, including the fact that hurricane season continues to be a dud, although there's a rather ominous tropical wave moving through the Southern Caribbean, and there's definitely some rough times ahead for Haiti, Dominican Republic, PR, Cuba. There's going to be some wet evenings there in the near future, but overall, there's a certain pan-Caribbeanism I always think about with hurricane season and a connection to New York City. And we're going to come back to these things, but there is a video that has been circulating of a woman in New York absolutely going off on some ICE agents who are detaining her family members. And I was thinking as I watched this video, and if you haven't seen it, listener, do. It's awesome. She's, I'll protect this woman. And I thought as I watched this, it's hard for anyone to be this mad and say these things and still be dignified and come out as the person who absolutely, even if you didn't get ultimate, they still took your person, and that's terrible. She still came off as really making these guys look like assholes because they're fucking assholes. And the only line, we don't need to play the whole video or recount it too much, but the line on the way out of the elevator she hits him with that made me feel like, damn, this lady fucking got their asses yeah, play right there. Yeah, play it from here. All right. Did you see this, Axiom?
Yeah, I saw this one.
This shit rocks. This lady,
Yes. Hey, come. I got rings on, bitch. So me and you gonna fight, you bitch. You a bitch. That's why your kids them don't like you, and your wife is on you. That's why you gotta hide your face. My face ain't hidden, bitch. I'm American, you stupid bitch. Wrong with y'all? You can take me too high. I'm Charlotte the Zodiac Price. You know what to do? Tell him, no. You want me? Sexy harass. Nobody wanna kiss me, buddy. Nobody help me. Wrong with y'all? All of you. Put that on the news. Let Trump see it.
That was awesome.
As the elevator closes, oh my god! And again, it's I know that she's literally fighting the security, the cop there, who's I think probably trying to
ICE,
in his own way to keep her out.
Patrol.
I don't know if that guy was ICE or NYPD. Because there's a non-zero chance of NYPD. That guy was NYPD trying to kind of protect her from herself in her own way.
No, this was ICE. I'm pretty sure.
No, ICE was there. I just don't know who that guy was specifically stopping her from leaving the elevator. Because he, the woman who was with her, maybe her daughter, thanked him as the elevator closed too. And and again, it's I think that this was obviously a very traumatic thing for everyone involved. And it's not something I want to make light of too much. But again, I just think this person really, if they're worried that they came off as I don't know, this or that, too much, you didn't. You really fucking hit the nail on the head, and respect for having exactly the level of rage that anyone should have, especially in that moment, but really at all times. It's really unfucking believable the way that people are being treated, and it's not right. And the way that she laid into them verbally was awesome. And I think it's one of those things, calling him a rapist in the elevator on the way out, it's okay, go ahead, disprove her. Is that, it seems pretty unimpeachable at this point that the president is a rapist. It's I don't know, maybe parody, satire, all those important caveats and all, but made
and it's pretty
Epstein
clear.
Ain't going away, right?
Yeah, pretty clear. Epstein's not going away.
And that's part of that.
The day that the shutdown ends is the day that the bill is going to pass to release the Epstein files.
Yeah.
And so that's why the government ain't opening back up either. It's not going to. I'm calling that it's going to be a longer shutdown than the last one. And I'm doubling down on that prediction, I think.
Before we get to our bets, we're trying to do our lighter fare, and I know that we like to demystify things on this show, too, and one of those things we like to demystify is drugs, and we're going to do a little demystifying of nitrous today with our good friend and resident expert on the esoteric and all types of interesting things. And now he's had a recent experience I'd like to have him tell us about if he's ready and able.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Tell us the story.
Okay, so one thing I've been interested in for some time now is drug-related performance art. So I don't know if y'all have y'all heard of Folsom Street Fair?
No.
Okay, so Pride C is for straight people. Folsom Street Fair is where you can do actual homosexual acts out in public. So in San Francisco, every year there is Folsom Street Fair, which is a celebration of gay pride and specifically the leather and kink community. It's oodles of fun every year, and it's a lot less commercialized than Pride has become. Where don't get me wrong, you can still kind of hook up in the porta potties or something in Pride. But
so organically hedonistic.
Yeah, actual nudity and is officially allowed. Unofficially, sexual contact is allowed officially on the website. They say you aren't allowed to like actually fuck in public, but like of course you are. And so this year,
Nice.
as a piece of performance art, what I did is I went to shout out Mr. S, famous San Francisco leather shop, very kind staff, big Ace Hardware, old man at Ace Hardware vibes from the leather bound queers working there, and we took me a strap-on harness and a tank of nitrous oxide, and I made it into a big old whippet dick so that I could go around having fun, pretending that my penis was a big old tank of whippets and having random people suck it. So, on the one hand, there's just a general...
That's a vocal warm-up right there.
...pursuit of, like, pleasure in doing this, I do actually there is a significant amount of queer theory that went behind this performance. I'm trying to.
I love it.
I like art that has like highbrow and lowbrow appeal. So if we want to talk about say Adam Smith, who wrote Deep Sniff, that was a big influence, as well as the work of performance art Chris Burden, and then Testo Junkie by Paul Presidio was another act of, taking testosterone as an act of performance art and like gender exploration. So it was lots of fun. And, I think a lot of other art and artists, they have an image in their head and they're trying to kind of like bring that into reality. That's not really my approach with these sorts of projects. Instead, I'm trying to think of it as like, okay, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to be a catalyst and I don't really know what the is going to happen. So and that's kind of what I'm interested in. I've done other projects like this. Last spring for my birthday party, I edited together like a 4-hour block of like cartoons and weird videos and advertisements. And I called them Abe's Saturday Morning Ketatunes. And we just had a bunch of ketamine and watched those together. A few years ago for another birthday, I did a classy dinner party with a 4-course meal, and the 4th course was drugs. And I actually had a friend at that party who I gave some LSD to, and this friend was in sort of the afters, was having sex and doing whippets, and realized that he's a man. So that was
nice.
Kind of another just moment of oh, holy shit, this is something that I created, this moment that happened that I had no way of expecting or anticipating.
Right.
And so, that's kind of, I'm trying to do more projects like this in the future. I think performance art is an interesting form of art because there's nothing to sell, so you can't.
Yeah.
Most fine art is essentially money laundering for the rich, even if it's very meaningful or moving or something. There's probably somebody who managed to get out of paying some taxes.
Right.
By a piece of art being
Which
sold.
even then, you might find a way to leverage with something like performance art, but they still don't get a commodity out of it. And I think there's something kind of fun about that too. That's one of the reasons I love cooking too. It's just it's gone. Yeah, it's inherently sort of transient.
Yeah,
and I like that.
I like cooking and food as a form of art, and that's sort of inspiring to me because it is it's literally penetrating, it's entering one's body, which was also part of what I was kind of trying to gesture towards, is on the one hand, you have nitrous oxide, which is something that almost everybody has taken very large doses of. If you had a tooth drilled, and I mean, if you look like me, they just give you Novocaine now. They don't give me the gas anymore. But but most people have inhaled an enormous amount of nitrous oxide, in a medical context, But outside of that, in a more autonomous context, it becomes people call it hippie crack, and it becomes this very looked down upon thing. But yeah, it was an interesting experience. There was there was some danger inherent in it. I did have one person who right near the end of the fair who was kneeling and sucking my whippet dick, and he did fish out, so he bumped his noggin a little bit, and Fortunately, his dom was like all over the situation. We got the medics to come over, so everything was okay. But that was also kind of
he's good.
Yeah. But that's also
we wish him the best.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry to laugh. It's just I'm still thinking too about the leather guys being like, wow, what a novel thing to design. Like, but so like I also support any novel way to like express like masculine gender in a different way and be like a different sort of way to be like a queer man. I love that. Like, so salute to you and your whippet dick. I also had in my notes here that one of the things I support about your performance here too is I do think dentists need to be taken down a notch. How dare you tell my friend he can't have the good stuff when he goes to get a fucking drill in his teeth, you asshole. You think he's going to be, he might need a little more than your average patient, but you know what? He's not going to fish out on it. He's going to handle it well, and he'll be a great patient, and you might even see him again just for a chill.
Yeah. It's a dentist, not a detective, all right? So it's not their job to be investigating anything. It's your job to be giving people nitrous when they ask for it.
Yep, and other forms of dental care.
Yeah, maybe some dental care here and there.
Yeah.
But.
Also, the Novocaine just doesn't work very well on me, so they fucking shoot my gums like 6 times every time I get a tooth drilled now.
I love that shit. It's like, I'm fucked up, but like when I go to the dentist, I literally am like, do your worst, guys. Like, get in there, fuck my shit up. Like, I like my dentist to be relaxed, and when they numb me up, I'm like, it's like, there's something like about just being like, totally having to submit to this person and their knowledge of like what the fucking do in there, and just be like, I'll literally like, I've almost caught myself falling asleep while they're fucking around in there. It's so weird, but it's just like, yeah, guys, you know what? It's your job, and like it's an hour where I don't have to do anything, so just. And then my mouth feels weird afterwards too. It's got like it's all numb and shit. Like it's fun. I like the dentist.
Kind of like hurts to drink certain beverages.
Yeah, but it's all like, and then also like that like really fucking clean, almost like bloody tooth feeling. I love that. So. Shall we get into the damn news, gang? I don't even have the government shutdown on my outline, which, once again, is just hilarious the way in which we're not able to cover all the bullshit.
Yeah, we did cover it last episode, but it's going to be an ongoing thing, and I think it's just going to be continuous shutdown. That's the new system of government without a Congress operating.
There's also like a resistant quality in fucking being selective about, what we do or don't cover. I think it's always important to keep in mind that we're under media siege.
I don't care.
And we don't have time.
That's your problem. Yeah, I mean, especially with it's a sort of like revolutionary defeatism pertaining to particularly constitutional democracy, and it's not like an accelerationist thing, but it does have to do particularly with the Democratic Party, where it's like the ultimate fallout of this shutdown is going to be a net loss in popularity for both parties at the end of the day. That's why it's such a political football, because it's not a one-sided problem as much as they always try and make it that way. It always but it makes people get mad at the Democrats too, and they're handling it better than they ever have. Truly,
if it goes 3 weeks,
more belligerent opponent than they ever have.
If it goes 3 more weeks, which I suspect it will, around November 1st, people who have insurance plans are actually going to see price increases because that's the renewal period for people's insurance, and I do think that's when people are actually going to be pissed off. Not at the Democrats, but at the Republicans.
Let's just be real for a second here, too, about the net consequence of that. It is the complete and utter gutting and repealing of Obamacare. We've returned to a pre-Obamacare
so you're paying the
world
market rate.
In that scenario. Yeah, and like that is just pitiful.
Market rate for healthcare. This is the market solution.
Yeah, there are Democrats who are doing their best, and all respect to them, and we're going to talk about a certain specific Democrat in New York closer to the end of the show. But overall, it's like the fucking failure of the Democratic Party continues to weigh heavily on my mind, and I think of them as a vestigial organ of a political sort of vehicle that only really serves to absorb and squander and squelch the like organizing energies and potentials of people with any sort of like ambition of political change. And it's like, maybe that's not what it was designed to do originally, but it seems to have done mostly that. So I don't know. We're talking first thing on the docket here, unless you folks have anything else you want to get out of the way before we move into the less lighter fare. I feel we've already gotten there.
We've gotten there. We're talking about the shutdown.
We're there. Talking about the Democrats, talking about the shutdown, talking about the evil Reich currently in power. And I think
actually I have one thing to add to what we were saying, which is that in a free and fair election, which I'm not assuming, I do think that the Republicans would lose terribly starting November 1st, once people's insurance rates go up. People already are acknowledging, even Republicans are acknowledging, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that prices are increasing. And when you have a big shock to something like healthcare prices increasing, it will take at least years for the effects of inflation to actually roll out, as you have the type of increases we're talking about of 30, maybe 100% increases to people's healthcare costs. That's going to ripple out across the entire economy, and all prices are going to increase. That gives latitude for everything else to increase, as you see drug prices and cost of living prices to increase. That will mean groceries increase, rent increases, and this creates a positive feedback loop. This would make any party fail in a free and fair election as an incumbent president. We know the old Carville rule, which is people vote with their wallet, and it's the economy, stupid. And I do think, without a doubt, the Democratic Party would win the next election in a free and fair election, but that is where the Republican Party now knows they've cut too deep, and they have to create an authoritarian state and to try to destroy the concept of an opposition party. And that is a totalitarian state. And
it's totally not a constitutional democracy in any sense either. Yeah.
They know they have to do that. They have no out at this point. Yeah. With what they've done with the the BBB, the big, beautiful bill, they have no way out besides to do an authoritarian crackdown on free speech. And the people in power are aware of that fact. And it is pretty much a fact that the Democrats would win without doing anything, which is why the Carville rule again now is do nothing, like what most of the leadership
policy, as they call it, the possum principle, as it's referred to by a certain Cajun wily old fox.
And the people still listen to it. Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, our leadership actually listens to this guy who says roll over and play dead. And they will win with a 2 or 3%, but that's not enough to win over.
No, but, okay, to get back, him, them. But to get to the Trumpers, too, because we talked about them on the last episode a little bit with Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's like they are running low on W's. They're running low on to believe in. And I've heard little bits of smugness about peace in the Middle East from them, because that would be a W that they could hold out. But we're here, unfortunately, covering the breakup almost immediately of this most recent ceasefire. And I mean, they got Tony Blair on the case on this one, but it is unfortunate and unfortunately unsurprising in my opinion. And I wish all solidarity and safety to, the Palestinian people. I hope they're, whoever's there is able to survive and maintain some level of dignity and autonomy from this fucking murderous ethno-state, this genocidal ethno-state that we fund.
So who predicted that this peace deal, the third one probably, I think, that Trump has announced, since he said he would solve all wars on day one. I think he promised on the campaign trail.
Day one.
And now I believe he's declared 3 ceasefires so far that have all failed due to Israel purposely failing to honor their agreement. And so I think last episode we actually were already pretty skeptical about this deal actually working.
It's hard not to be.
It's hard not to be.
Sucks.
Yeah,
I don't want
it to be a real deal.
I want to be so cynical.
Of course, Trump just announces, just like he does with the money, he pulls the numbers completely out of his ass and says, "Oh, it was 17 trillion. Now we're at 19 trillion," and the number keeps growing that he claims that he's collected from tariffs. And it's absurd at this point because he hasn't collected 1 trillion. And he hasn't accounted for the fact that sales are going to decline. Like we talked about last episode, he didn't expect China to retaliate.
Another figure that has grown since we last spoke, too, that is, I'd love to hear Axiom's opinion on a little bit, is the Argentine bailout. I forgot to put that.
Yeah, I called that too. I said it wasn't going to be the end of the money, and they immediately doubled it after. I said 20 billion wasn't going to be even enough to bail out the Argentinian economy, and there will definitely be more. And before the episode even posted, they doubled it.
Axiom, my friend, how aware of Javier Milei are you? Like, what's your like? How much of him have you been exposed to?
I am not super on top of this one in particular. Why don't you lay it out for me?
Well, look, here's how it is, dude. It's just like, part of being a politics guy is a certain love of freak watching. And that is not a good or healthy thing to do. It's bad for you. It's a bad person habit to just judge people. But you get away with it by finding the most evil people and observing the ways in which they are freaks specifically. And sometimes the universe blesses you with someone that is so cartoonishly hilarious, like Javier Milei, and the only thing keeping them from really being the perfect joke is their ascendancy to power and current residency in the seat of power in Argentina. And who knows if he'll win again in his next election. I really don't know what that's looking like. But yeah, I mean, how to describe Javier Milei in summary? He is, well, first I'll have to post in the Discord the picture of him.
You see the picture I'm sharing? Or
as
is it
libertarian man, but he is the most arch conservative libertarian as anyone, and like anarcho-capitalist libertarian, I should say specifically. His whole pitch is always, we must destroy the state as much as possible to allow capitalism to flourish. Ooh, here's a good summary. Earlier in the Trump administration, when he and Elon were still palling around, and they were on their Doge shit. You remember that era when they were all about cutting?
Yes. He's the one who handed the chainsaw over to Elon.
Yes.
When he said,
oh my God, he was there for that? Yeah, and that's, I mean, Javier Milei has the energy of that scream, is I think a good way to understand him. That Elon scream there is like Javier Milei's energy at all times. Are we painting a good picture for you?
Yeah, pretty much.
And did you also see that Trump conditioned the 20 billion now that he's doubled to 40 billion? He conditioned it on Milei winning his next election, which is going to be in November. And that's crazy too, that he was outright. He said several things this past month that were like some of the most openly corrupt things that presidents have ever said. Like, I will only give you aid if you win this election, and things like that. He also said to Israel before the Knesset, I think, like he said the quiet part out loud by saying basically, what was it? I forget.
Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got 60 billion in the bank, 60 billion. And I think she's saying no more.
No, I think she's saying
she loves Israel,
stop
but she loves
talking.
it. And they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in.
They're just openly bragging
but
about
they
crimes,
were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things.
Anyways, not to get too sidetracked from
I posted a picture of his super anarcho-capitalist man outfit. It's all yellow and black, as you can imagine. He has a giant scepter that presumably breaks up government regulation in favor of the invisible hand of the free market. So, yeah, he's... and honestly, someone we should probably come back to in our episode about liberalism, too, because I feel like he is, like, one of the things when we talk about it more is, like, we just got to talk about the continuum of liberals and where someone, like, so invested in what is essentially neoliberalism, even if they say they hate neoliberalism. It's like just doing neoliberalism anyway.
It's sort of interesting, too, because, like, looking at, partially the stuff in Argentina, but also, like, Trump's actual military attacks on Venezuela.
Right.
We're always making and harping on the comparison to Hitler, which I think definitely more in term 2 than in term 1 has some aptness. But I think
unfortunately,
where I am always harping on America influenced Hitler, and also just that, people like Ronald Reagan and Andrew Jackson were as genocidal, if not more, than Adolf Hitler. And I think one thing that we've completely whitewashed the legacy of Ronald Reagan in this country, but I think the direct influence on Trump can't be overstated, especially with the fact that he's trying to interfere with South American politics. And specifically using the drug trade as a way of empowering his own regime or whatever, while simultaneously interfering with it and trying to take control of it.
Combining the war on terror with the war on drugs and using that as a war on Latin America as a pretense for and internal enemies, I think, together. Yeah. Which has been pretty crazy to see.
Yeah.
Is this a good segue now into the Venezuela Peace Prize? Because we wanted to talk about that on the last episode, but we didn't really get to it.
It had just happened.
You're right.
I'd like to talk about that, the Peace Prize.
I don't know shit about it. I'm what happened to Juan? Where's Juan Guaido? What? He's done all this work. He's been declaring himself president.
Yeah, I thought he's the true president already. Trump declared that in the first term, and I was all there.
That's my position on it, is that I feel like we should be more ride or die for Juan Guaido. It's what happened to loyalty? It's I don't even, who is
it's also weird that he's actively doing, related to what we were just talking about, the combining the war on drugs and the attacking the fishermen in Venezuela. One of the boats has turned out to be a Colombian boat, and they're all innocent fishermen. And now the most recent one, there were survivors. There were also survivors on the most recent one. And this is all very similar to a Bay of Pigs type invasion, just right out in the open. Whereas JFK, this turned out to be the biggest scandal of his career and had the sense to feel shame about it. Trump is just actively declaring, I'm just killing innocent fishermen in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico.
Now I'm using the CIA, and now the CIA's in there, and they're doing operations, folks. They're doing operations. They're doing a war. They're doing the use of lead. They say the lead and gold. That's what they say. It's either you get the money or you get the lead.
Also, with the Carter and the peanut farms, it's all the stuff that used to be scandalous is now just right out in the open. And he's what do you mean sell peanut farms? Why would I do that?
Yeah, you have a president who's literally doing fucking hot coin style rug pulls, and we made fucking Jimmy Carter. Don't get me wrong, I don't think we should overly lionize Jimmy Carter, but we made Jimmy Carter sell his goddamn.
We don't like Carter, we don't like JFK really, but it's we've come a long way from this guy.
Someone should give that man a nice peanut farm.
Yeah, I will say he was probably the best ex-president of all time, but I don't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say anybody's the best president of all time.
No one ever worked harder to repent for their sins than Jimmy Carter.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, after that.
Yeah.
It showed he actually felt guilty for being president, which is going to involve a lot of sins, you said.
I get that. And I don't know shit about this Machado lady. You made a great pivot there to AI that I would like to maybe pick up on their Axiom. But do you have anything else either of you want to say? Because I just don't know shit about this lady. It's obvious. It makes the Nobel
I'd
Peace
love to
Prize
talk the
really,
Nobel Peace Prize.
And gross. Yeah, talk.
You know why you don't know shit about this is because allegedly behind the scenes there was a bunch of politicking in order to give this lady the. People are speculating that she planned in advance to dedicate it to Trump because the Nobel Peace Prize this year thought it would be too controversial to give it directly to Trump. So they gave it to someone who said in private, I will receive the award and then I will dedicate it to Trump. And that was their way of splitting the middle and trying to please all sides. And the reason that people are speculating this is because there was allegedly insider trading going on based on the timing of bets on the poly market, where suddenly, just before she was nominated, some whales made massive bets that ended up paying off in factors of at least tenfold. They ended up, I think it was like $160 million return that they made for betting in advance with knowledge before what the Nobel Peace Prize was going to announce. And they selected this woman who is claiming that she won the Venezuelan election rightfully instead of Maduro and the Trump regime.
She's Lady Juan Guaido? Is that what this is?
Yeah, she's Lady Juan Guaido. Yes, exactly.
Right, well,
it's the next person who's planning to engineer a coup of Venezuela.
Venezuelan coup is what you're
and
telling
the
me.
Nobel Peace Prize is helping to collude with that. Yes.
Wow. This all reeks of woke. I guess that's what I'll say.
Yeah, so woke.
That'll be my final word on this.
Whereas Trump would say, like, oh, it was so political that Obama received a Nobel Peace Prize. So now it's basically the MAGA reverse version of trying to purposefully engineer the Nobel Peace Prize and weaponize it, when it's already doesn't really come from a very great... It doesn't have a great historical origin, knowing that Alfred Nobel is the inventor of dynamite, right?
It's
I mean, it's not...
that they would do this at a time... Like, is this lady unequivocally condemning what Donald Trump is doing to Venezuelan sovereignty? Because regardless of how you feel about the fucking people in charge of Venezuela right now...
They're calling that peaceful, and she's helping foment a coup. Yeah.
Like, you think you're going to get a clean mandate handed to you by the Yankees, you fucking idiot?
And the irony is that our administration is saying that Maduro didn't rightfully win his election when our Supreme Court is actively working to overturn the Voting Rights Act, where they completely agree with the sentiment that Stalin once said, which is that it's not that voters select their leaders, actually. Democracy is when leaders select their voters. And the Supreme Court happens to agree. Yeah, the Supreme Court just happens to agree with that outlook of what democracy is. And they think that minoritarian rule is the way that the founders wanted the country to be legally created. And so they're arguing that this sort of minoritarian rule is okay when they do it. And yet they're trying to argue with a straight face that Maduro didn't win his election because he didn't win a majority. And obviously, you know that majority should rule, right? When it comes to an election. Is that what we're supposed to understand? And that's the argument that they're trying to make with a straight face, that Maduro didn't win the majority for his election. So therefore, he's not a rightful winner, when it seems like what he's saying is, I won my electoral college and I'm in charge of my electoral college. And that seems to be what the Supreme Court is saying, that our leaders are allowed to do, and that it's not voters selecting their leaders, but actually gerrymandering is completely legal, and that means that leaders select their voters, not the other way around.
Yeah. So I have a couple
things. Sorry to cut you off, Axiom. What were you saying?
So I live in California right now, and so currently Gavin Newsom, who I kind of fucking hate, but that aside, Gavin Newsom is there's a bill right now, we're going to vote on it in November, to basically like gerrymander, to conditionally gerrymander California against like the gerrymandering that the Republicans have been doing for so long. On the one hand, I'm sort of glad, and there's a good chance I will vote for it. I haven't entirely decided, given that, you know, there needs to be some amount of standing up to the gerrymandering that's happened for like the last majority of the last century in this country. Yeah. That said, I also do have some nervousness about it, especially given that I do think that that Gavin Newsom is trying to gear up to essentially be like the next Bill Clinton, the next like, you know, Democrat who allows everything to ratchet farther to the right and doesn't move anything back. I think that's also part of why, you know, Gavin Newsom, I think, does ultimately want to consolidate power in California so that he doesn't have threats from, like, there are a large number of conservatives in this state. Now, that said, I think that Gavin Newsom's actual real threat in this state is a actually kind of radical or progressive candidate. I think this is one of the few, like here in New York, I think are the only places where, it could kind of happen without it having already happened somewhere else, the rest of the country, because, people are scared and people are scared of Trump, and that does hold power for certain Democratic politicians. So, I do think that the fortunate thing potentially about voting for it is that the gerrymandering against the Republicans in California could also mean gerrymandering against establishment Democrats. And if there's one thing Democrats love, it's shooting themselves in the fucking foot. So,
It should be a fucking drinking game or something, except don't drink, audience. It's bad. Well, and I did want to say, too, about the sort of, post-Soviet, the Stalinist comparison you made earlier, Vane, is that...
That's my name.
The Supreme Court is our most, Soviet, gerontocratic sort of institution in its own funny way, where it just sort of, it has this inverted reality within the even original self-conception of democracy, where it's we're not doing kings, but forever lifetime elected judges.
But there'll be 9
they're impartial. You
9 emperor god really kings that are have complete impunity and don't even follow a basic code of ethics.
And they're free to completely make up what the Constitution means eventually at any time, and will. It's fucking awesome. So love the Constitution.
Yeah, they won't even agree that they should be bound by a code of ethics together. As long as they agree not to do it, they're not bound by anything. Isn't that awesome?
Well, the other point I wanted to make, Axiom, is you'll be proud to know that you're on a podcast that was started before Gavin Newsom released his podcast. Just barely.
That's true.
But it's something
try to
I don't
remind
think we
the audience.
bring up enough. Yeah, it's something we need the audience to know, is that we were in the podcast realm, in the podcast, arena before Gavin
literally
Newsom.
months
so don't
before Gavin.
Literally just barely, but we beat his ass, and we weren't at TwitchCon being weird, which he was, which is embarrassing. So, if you're wondering what we're not doing, it's going to TwitchCon, because that's just, I don't know. If you're not, I don't know. If you want to go for your parasocialism, great, but whatever.
No TwitchCon, no French laundry.
We started that conversation about the Nobel Peace Prize and this fucking awful they're trying to gin up with Venezuela, and ended up talking about the Supreme Court and the Soviet Union as usual. So that's fine. But I want to keep it on track a little bit, and I want to talk about AI, because I've honestly been wanting to get on the mic with Axiom a while to talk a little bit about AI more, because it's such a... I don't know if you encounter, I'm just always wanting to check the temperature with you as a Californian, and you're if you encounter anyone or dealing with it, or my thing too with AI is that the bubble continues to worsen. It's so fucking obvious to everyone that there's not a usable or useful product here, even less so than crypto, which at least works for money laundering. What AI does is waste resources to do things that a human being could do trivially easily. Even if it might take them a day or two, they're going to deliver on something that's just more coherent than what AI can deliver on. Because at the end of the day, it requires a data set that is fallible, and there's no way around that. And I'm just
curious. It's still going to need a human to check it and make sure it wouldn't be offensive to other humans.
Give me
So one thing I want to point out about AI is that there's an enormous amount of labor that's happening in primarily Asia that's going into the training of AI. So the digital dumb fuck that we've all created and encountered that's wrong all the fucking time, that is the result of constant labor to train it. So it's not actually so much a force of true automation as it is further.
A lot of moderation works this way
too. Yeah, it's further outsourcing of labor to countries where the economic situation is such that you don't have to pay them very much. So, not only, it's not even necessarily an automated plagiarism machine, because it's not automated.
Right.
Now, there's also
Right.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah. So there's also vast environmental concerns. Now, I would almost be more afraid.
Oh my God, yeah, that's my big thing with it too. It's like, it's insane, the resources it wastes.
And now I would be more afraid of this technology, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it is immensely unprofitable, and not even like unprofitable in the sense of, you know, every company appears unprofitable because they don't want to pay taxes. It's literally like not, it's only sucking up resources. It's not, and it's not able to scale. And then all these AI companies that exist are all using OpenAI's technology. So, you know,
listeners, check out Ed Zitron for more of this stuff too. Like, it's unprofitable.
Now, that's almost kind of a relief to me, and I'm sorry to all the homeowners out there whose mortgages are going to be I cashed in my 401k because like recession is coming, and that is like, don't expect that shit to exist. There will be a recession probably as a result of this, but I do think we'll be, you know, I think we'll be saved from a technology that I think is ultimately purely
it's going to be an interesting test of the durability of fiat currency.
Yeah. I also think that, you know, a lot of people in my generation have kind of been waiting for a recession to have any potential shot whatsoever at ever buying a house. So, you know, try and save.
Or making any kind of like lateral move.
Try and save cash while you can, you know, stay as secure in your job as you can be. If your job isn't super secure, I'd advise people to try and find something that is a little more secure. I'm glad I actually make something because, like, there will probably be a big wave of layoffs as people are trying to take advantage of this technology. But I do think that there's a good chance that we will see it. I think we'll see OpenAI go offline because it's taking...
Yeah, it will underfund itself. As it lays people off, they will no longer have customers for their own products. Yeah. And as you do things like what Trump is doing, pissing off the entire rest of the world, you're going to have a smaller and smaller customer pool. And that's an inherent problem for them. And if they're laying off all their employees because they've automated all their jobs, it's an inherent problem for them that now they have no customers.
I would also, I would say to any students out there, there's going to be, you know, so now we're about deep enough in that there are college students graduating who have used ChatGPT for their entire undergraduate experience. And, you know, already we're at the point where a college degree has become immensely devalued.
I was just reading about the literacy crisis, too.
So if, like, you're a student right now, I do think you'll be uniquely qualified among your peers if you don't use that shit at all. And that'll, you know, so,
I underline this 1,000,000%. Yes. Like, kids, for all of our high school age listeners, do not use it. Seriously. Like, it literally
do your
makes
own
you
research.
Dumber. It's not a joke. No, it's not. And it's not gotten easier to do your own fucking research, too. That's where I feel bad for these kids. But, like, look, books, the thing about them, they stay in one place, and you can interrogate them in a way that you can't interrogate a piece of digital information. That's something that's a little different. So, I don't know.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, I also think that there's... One thing I will say about it, too, is that I think, like, you know, we've had, and this is more of like an artistic, like, aesthetic thing, but I think aesthetics are very important. I mean, Trump has been riding fascist aesthetics, like, basically to the top.
Yeah.
But, like, I think that there's something to be said, too, for, like, all the art created with AI just fucking sucks. And, you know, I think there's kind of...
It's very recognizable.
I think there's kind of like a... You know, so there was such an era of snobbishness, and that kind of sucked in terms of, like, you know, this distinction between high art and low art was, like, a lot of the time very classist and bad. And, you know, it's something I always, you know, I like to mix highbrow and lowbrow or whatever. But that said, like, I think there's also been... You know, we've seen, so now cinema is kind of coming back, but we had this long period of time, and I don't want to shit on anyone for enjoying Marvel movies or whatever. We had a long period of time where there was basically like a monocultural force where you go into any fucking movie theater and there's a Marvel in like literally like 9/10 of the theaters playing, and you have like one like low budget horror, and then like everything else is like Marvel movies. And, you know, I think this is given... And here's the thing. Take the very best superhero movie you've ever seen and try to compare it to, like, fucking Goodfellas or something. I'm sorry, like there's not a single superhero movie that's like a good film. They're at best okay, you know?
Yeah.
So like I think too that, you know, now there's a whole bunch of people who have this thing on their phone, and after like years of just kind of like a lot of culture being mediocre when it comes to like the visuals that we've been seeing, they're very mediocre, they're very samey, and there's a lot of the blend tool being used. And yeah, I think people feel like, oh, hey, I can create this, but like slop is the right word for it. And like, I also just want to point out, like, if you feel like, oh, hey, I can only create things like using this technology, like sit down with a notebook and doodle for a couple hours and you'll find like a shape that you're kind of good at drawing. And you can practice that shape and you can create something that's way better and more creative and original than...
You fucking doodle on your notebook. Well, and the thing I was going to say, too, is that I find just the only avenue I've found so far that's even remotely artistic with visually creative AI so far is... I'm loath to even admit this, but I find something kind of like almost like in a Dadaist way fascinating about AI joke advertisements and the way in which AI is able to produce parodies of advertisements. Yeah, there's something very like silly and funny to me about that, even if there's also obviously a very sinister layer to anything made with that shit because of just the pure resource cost. But then the real advertisements using AI to produce them are starting to show up in my fucking algorithm, and they are grading in a way that I am not ready for. It's so
if
just like it's just there's one for like Kalshi, which is just a website for gambling on anything at all times, and it's like just very disturbing the way the kind of like mafia neoliberalism society that we're rapidly descending into, and AI is part and parcel for this with crypto.
It totally is. I think if you talk about like the end of a life cycle in art, because they say history repeats itself and there's patterns. So you have life cycles for anything, and those are played out usually by larger cycles of economic inequality. And what we find is towards the end of a political and a artistic life cycle, there's a period which gets called mannerism. And that's what we're describing here. And really what the AI content creation is basically just the end point of mannerism. It's like a machine that generates derivative crap. And that's all it could ever be, is something that recycles other people's ideas over and over again, because you've reached the end of the road. You recycle stories because you can't come up with any new ones. You can't create new mediums to tell stories like when you first created film or radio. And there's nothing anywhere near as revolutionary as that. Even if a podcast is a new phenomenon, it's the radio still. That's all it is. We can't reinvent radio. We can't reinvent film. We've done maybe video games is probably the next largest medium.
I would agree with that video games prevents like a novel form of storytelling that has its own like interesting things. But it's totally
derivative
like, every medium
and repetitive.
Changes everything.
And we haven't had any type of major break from that, because we haven't had a giant boom for the middle class in a very long time. And that's what's going to create entirely new mediums and entirely new conventions. And we're just living at the end of a life cycle. And another thing that's interesting that I think about often is how, for example, credit cards are not a new technology at all. Credit is the oldest technology in the world. And all you've done is take a computer, much like crypto, take a computer and force it to do some work just to prove that it's processing something, and just to show that it's keeping track of something, a ledger, a fancy ledger, essentially, so that you can lend money at interest. And the only real novelty that has come out of credit is deregulation. We've deregulated the New Deal reforms that used to be able to hold people back from usurious interest rates. And now we're back at the point where we have no control over these little companies that pop up like whack-a-mole like predatory payday lending, and you have Klarna and Afterpay,
literally
and
like
lending
the
people
scam art that fucking Axiom was
NFTs
talking
and
about.
crypto. And clearly we are just at this stage of mannerism where we're just recycling the same bullshit, and that means the only way of making money is a zero-sum game, taking money from someone else. We have no concept of creating new money.
I love getting mad about usury as much as the next guy, but I want to close the door on the AI subject overall, and that is with two thoughts that are aimed towards our hypothetical high school age listener who's thinking about, you know, whether or not to use AI in their education. And here's what it is. The reality is, it's going to be annoying and tedious, and you're going to have to do annoying and tedious bullshit and read shit that's uninteresting to you, and that will be difficult and may take longer than it takes to do or read things that you enjoy doing. But ultimately, it is imperative to learn to think critically on your own to come to conclusions without the need of a tool like that, because it is essentially not useful for that process, despite what anyone will tell you, because the flaw that I cannot, you know, cross, the thing that makes me unable to find anything useful for this.
You can't trust it. You have to double check all of its work.
You have to accept that it is correct axiomatically. And I don't know why the fuck I should do that. No one can fucking explain why to me. And you know what? I think that you shouldn't. And from everything I can tell, I think it's just like a fucking a babbling, incoherent, like madness that is right as often as your average person Googling shit from the past fucking 2 decades. You know? That's kind of what it feels like. And ultimately, every bit of participation I put into it is ultimately to better it, not myself. And it's the same with social media, and you can at least leverage social media into something you can benefit from a little bit. This thing fully exists to abstract and learn from everything that is novel and interesting and human about you, the person using it. So you gain nothing from letting this thing do your doodles or flesh out your thoughts. It is useful only in a purely antagonistic sense, and you should think of it that way every time you're using it, that this thing is taking from you. At the end of the day, it's wasting resources that other human beings can be drinking. It's fucking wasting processing power that people could be using to do all whatever. You know, I don't know what. Like,
and
to do
talk about taking our jobs. It's taking work from people who deserve to be doing work.
Yeah, fucking A. Instead of it's just doing meaningless tabulations like you just described. It's like a fucking Lovecraftian horror story, dude. Like, do you have any closing thoughts on AI Axiom before we move on from the subject?
Nah, it fucking sucks.
Yeah, we all agree with that.
I'm excited for it to hopefully go offline. I do think so.
At least open it. I don't know.
NFTs. We've seen fucking like
sort of phase out.
We've seen the phase out of so many technologies in the last like 10 to 15 years that were going to be the next thing, from VR to like, I mean, I think 3D printing is the only one that's like kind of got much staying
really had
power,
some staying
and
power,
it's still not like it's like a hobbyist
Drones
type
too.
thing. You know, like
drones have been changing things up a lot, but I agree. And the thing that makes me optimistic that it might go away too, because it's always like kind of the Luddites bet that it's often wrong to like, this technology is, or the cotton gin, that's useless. But the thing with AI is that it's not even terribly novel. That's the thing I keep coming back to, is that like there has been shit not dissimilar to this for a very long time, and it doesn't seem like this is that much stronger. Except now
the proof of that is so many people took
videos and pictures.
Yeah, so many companies took existing technology that they already had, slapped a fucking AI sticker on it, and then used it as a branding exercise. But they already had developed the same technology, just like Google. And now they just make sure that you see AI powered at the top of your Google search. Right. But it's fucking Google search. It's been doing the same thing forever.
Yeah. It's just summarizing it in a way that I can sometimes be wrong too. And now I also need to double check
more
that.
Wrong, like, more loose with the facts.
More resources. It's awesome. Thanks, guys. Yes. This is really looking good. So we'll move on from that. And I wanted to know if either of you two watched the Cuomo Mamdani mayoral debate.
Oh, yeah.
Not the entirety, but I saw clips.
Well, before we get into that, I need to know, are you willing to condemn Hassan Piker? Why won't you condemn Hassan Piker? We don't want any hot.
Did you see that
collar
Hassan
right
predicted
now.
that too? That
See, I'm actually wearing a shock collar right now that's tied to his stream that whenever he yells at the chat, I get shocked, and it is a kink of mine. And so it's kind of like I want to condemn him, but that's also my kink, and it will get me off. So I don't know if that's like. See, I'm kind of in this bind. Like, I don't know where I'm at. So that's where I'm at. But I don't know. Yeah.
Did you see that Hassan actually predicted that Cuomo is going to bring him up in the debate, and then he does? It was pretty fun.
Oh, it was amazing. I was Babe Ruth fucking pointing the bat, dude. That was awesome.
I know for a fact almost that I will be brought up in tonight's debate.
You think so?
He's going to bring it up, I think, to be like,
You really think so?
oh, 100%. He's so desperate. He has nothing.
Why wouldn't he condemn Hamas? Why wouldn't he condemn Hassan Piker? Why did it take us here tonight for the first time for him to say it? He still won't denounce, globalize the intifada, which means kill all Jews. Just say, I denounce it.
Awesome. Cuomo just got owned in a historic way. He got owned in a way that will be studied the way that, like, the Nixon-Kennedy debate was studied, with Nixon not knowing how to look good on camera and everyone thinking he was, like, a fleshy creep, and that's why he didn't win that, like, being part of the narrative there. But the fact that he called his that shit so cleanly, and it was that was an insane I need to stop throwing that out there so much, but that was an embarrassing display by Cuomo. And the thing I can never stop thinking when I watch those two, and why I can't help but love Zohran despite some other recent comments that I don't agree with necessarily, is that one, he can't be president, and John Marco Cerezi said the same thing on Hassan's stream while they were watching it, but it's very true. It kind of tempers him as a political figure in a way that's very interesting. And then two, I see him up against Cuomo, and I cannot help but imagine him or anyone like him up against Trump and just having the same result of a person so full of bluster and bullshit just absolutely crumbling in the face of someone with actual conviction and a working mind and actual belief in a better world for tomorrow. Like, even if maybe they don't have everything figured out yet either, you can't put those two people next to each other and not expect people to come to the obvious conclusion that one person's full of shit and evil and probably doesn't have my best interest at heart, and the other person is probably worth a shot, democratically speaking. So that's something that's nice to see. And I don't know what you guys saw from the debate. Any highlights for the two of you personally?
I mean, sort of the fact that Cuomo's even still in the race is sort of patently insane.
Wild.
You know, like in New York, like, I don't know, there was literally a joke in The Wire of when the character Carcetti wins the primary and is like, guys, we still have the actual election, and it's like, yeah, this is like Baltimore. Like, what the f*** are you talking about? There is no actual. The primary is the election. You know, so it's sort of...
Yeah, and he's only increasing in the polls, which is pretty crazy. Usually they close, and his gap is getting bigger and bigger as the election approaches.
It's just also kind of insane to think that, like, Republican New Yorkers are going to vote for Cuomo because they're, like, that afraid of, like, Zohran. Like, I think New Yorker Republicans are just going to fucking, like, I don't know, not vote for a Democrat, but whatever. We are at the point where the Democrats have become essentially the conservative party, in the sense of, like, conservatives are the ones who are saying things shouldn't change, and, you know, progressives are the ones saying we should move into the future. Well, now, like, Democrats do kind of run on a classically conservative platform most of the time, which is why I think they lose so much.
Conservative relative to the changes that Trump is ushering in. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for queuing me up so
preserving a
there.
liberal democracy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like goes back to what I was saying about the Democratic Party as a vestigial organ, but thank you so much for queuing me up perfectly there, my friend, because one thing that I clocked in that debate that really got my ears perked up was the damn references from Cuomo of, they'll just move to Florida. And it came from Curtis Sliwa, too, about the landlords for the, like, you know, people who are running prostitution, which that might be true. But ultimately, I just was like, oh, interesting. The idea that like Florida, for New Yorkers, people who are more proud of the place they live, and it's a more core part of their identity than almost anywhere else in the country. New York City, people from New York City specifically, that is like, it is its own sort of like civic nationalism within America that is fascinating to study in its own way. And it's, I love New York, don't get me wrong, but that Florida being seen as this default escape hatch in this discussion for these people in the Democratic Party was something that really stuck out to me as this like fascinating little, like, again, vestigial organ of history that is inescapable about America, and that's Florida. We're talking Florida. It's Hell on the Beach. It's our series on our Patreon. If you've come this far, thank you so much for listening. Check out the show on Patreon. We may also include a photo of our friend here with his nitrous tube, if he's willing and interested. That can be another Patreon benefit. But the show is awesome. It's about, the pre-colonial history of Florida. And my dear friend here, Vane, is putting in some hard work on that jazz. So come check it out. It's really enjoyable. And it's
a lot like Hell of Presidents and Hell on Earth, if you like those series.
Inspired by the Hell series from the Chapo Boys, but about Florida. And it's a series that kind of slots nicely into that continuum, really, because Florida is a place that's kind of at the intersection of both stories, and also at the intersection of seemingly everything in American history. We joke about being Charlie with the what is the name of the
Charlie with the red strings?
What is the name of the guy?
Pepe Sylvia.
Pepe Sylvia. Yeah. Florida's our Pepe Sylvia. So and that was my little Pepe Sylvia moment there in the debate, was being like, they'll escape to Florida, will you? Interesting. Why would that? I wonder why. Florida. Yeah, the free real estate of Florida that seems to never run out somehow. Yeah. So any closing thoughts?
The Epstein stuff's going down in Florida.
Yep. Epstein ain't going away too. That's something that continues.
Our Attorney General happens to be from Florida. Played a pretty major role as an Attorney General there.
Yeah, that's my way of trying to round out the show, though, here. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, do you have any closing thoughts, either of you two, on the mayoral debate or anything like that? I think I'm going to cut you off earlier on something, Vane.
We could watch that clip if you want. Or
he's always got a clip.
I have another clip of Trump saying that the government shutdown will likely be permanent, and saying the jobs will be cut because of Democrats, and the Democrat programs are never coming back. In his own words.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much.
We probably don't have to show it.
It's like what our friend Axiom here said about the power of saying, actually, we're not going to talk about that. I don't need to hear this bloviating piece of shit every time he says something. And as we've said before on the show too, it's like the thing about the government shutdown that makes it hard for these guys to be like, well, now the Democrats are doing this. It's like, hey, you've been pretty clear and open and unambiguous that your whole political program is about completely dismantling and ending the state. And now here it is, the state is ending, and you're the ones in charge, and you're acting like you didn't want this the whole time. So, kind of not easy to take that credibly, unless you're a total rube.
Yeah, at some point, you're eventually going to have to stop playing hide the ball.
Yeah, so, that's kind of our closing thoughts there on the shutdown.
I have a closing thought.
Yeah. What were you saying?
Want to talk about that fucking AI slot video that Trump posted in response to the No Kings thing?
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck, man?
You go. That's when we...
is that supposed to make us mad? Like, what?
Trump AI
I think we have to cover this, too, because the corporate media... I heard some folks on Blue Sky saying this. It's very true that, I actually haven't even seen this video, too, so this would be a good react to close the episode with. But on Blue Sky, there were folks saying that, one of the great... ways you can see how shitty the corporate media is now is that no one is even really putting in headlines about what this video sincerely is, which, from what I understand, it is sincerely him having shit fall out of a plane
and he's wearing a crown.
So, hold on.
Yeah, we gotta watch it.
I need to close Discord for 1 second because it's f***ing up on me. It's acting weird. So I might have to close the call and come back in. Give me 1 sec. I'll be right back. We love here, folks. We love it. I'll be right back. 1 sec, guys. Okay.
You seeing this video?
Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you.
All right. I'm back.
You want to see the video again?
Let's see it.
All right.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's be brave journalists for our listeners. Satire, parody. We are not journalists.
Okay, he's wearing a crown constantly. And in a fighter jet, and it's dropping poop.
Yep, and dropping. That is unambiguously. Is that Harry Sasson?
I think
that really
is.
looks like Harry Sasson.
Yeah, it looked like, almost like a Harry Sasson.
Yeah, no, they pulled.
That was like dead on Harry Sasson getting the shit on him right there.
I think it pulled that as like the leftist protester. But yeah, see, so this is like,
Man.
There were images too. He shared like weird pictures of himself as a king too recently. He's going hard with the AI. He also got his hands on Soros. Is that what it is?
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, Axiom, because I did say to my dear partner the other day about how, like, it's a stupid thing, but it is kind of one of those things about America that you can say is different than a lot of other Westphalian democracies and places like that this is a place that said pretty unambiguously, we're not doing this monarchy bullshit. We're not going to have like a genetically privileged minority within our polity that exists as this like relic of the way in which we used to organize our society that was kind of monstrous at the end of the day. And
we don't want guys who put their faces on coins and build arches to themselves in grand ballrooms and things like that.
That attitude of like, who the f*** do you think you are about your leaders is something that I think is very, very American and something I appreciate. And I see being reflected in the attendance of these No Kings protests. And that's a beautiful thing to see, because one of the things I worry about so much about this current moment too is that people really don't have enough of like the sort of epigenetic memory of feudalism and literally being a fucking serf, and this makes them the perfect ready-made victims of this like neo-serfdom that the tech oligarchic elite seem to want to impose from people like the fucking destroying the cathedral or whatever that fucking Curtis Yarvin freakazoid gets into. So
people who think that it's a good idea to destroy your own Department of Education.
Yeah, I like, and sometimes I really feel like despair that people aren't angry enough. But then it's like, you put out a video like this where you're in a fighter jet with a crown, literally dropping shit on protesters in America. That is like the base, the diehard Trump base. I think that's going to peel off a few. I've met people who peeled off from Trump after January 6th. That was too much for them. And who knows if they came back after that? I always think anytime I meet someone who's like, but this thing, that was the line for me. I'm always like, oh yeah.
The line is always the part really
I can't help but be like a snob. I still can't help but be like a snob in those circumstances.
That did it for you?
Be like, oh, that was the thing, right? Oh yeah.
I think the moment that he went down the escalator and said Mexicans are racist was the moment I don't like him as a political candidate.
Something else, another bit of deep lore for the show that maybe we don't bring up enough is that you attended, my friend here, Vane, attended a shockingly early Trump rally. And, it's interesting person. Stuff. So
only about 100,
in the 2016
maybe
campaign.
150 feet away from him.
Crazy. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to get into the specifics of where you were in relation to him. That's a little...
It's funny because I think back with my group of friends, and 3 out of the 4 of us were like, holy shit, that was a Nazi rally immediately after. And then one of them was like, I don't think that was a Nazi. And we got into talking about like the history of Weimar Germany and like how after decades of austerity and the reparations, like they're angry. And he's like, I don't see it. And I'm sure still to this day, he probably denies it because that was pretty representative of 1 in 4 Americans right there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up too, friend, because I want us to maybe plug our liberalism super episode we're planning here too. I want to get this gang together again to talk liberalism. Nationalism's obviously going to come up in there too, because the subjects are kind of inseparable. And we're gonna really fucking hash it out, because it's so common in leftist circles to be like, oh, they're libs, that's a lib, and like the libs are out in the streets right now doing protests. So it's like you really can't blanket condemn liberalism, and that's what makes it so hard to like reckon with as a historical and social force for leftists. And that's something I think we'll have a good time discussing.
Yeah, even those people that peeled away, like you said, are libs. They are used to the norms. Like generally, they're liberals who are just
fucking live.
Yeah, the vast majority of us. That's the soup you swim in. And so if you finally get turned off to a guy who's just actively saying fuck playing by the rules, fuck the institutions, then you are a liberal and you're being pulled into that old liberal sentiment of conservatism, but for liberal democracy and saying, I don't know if we should go this far.
When it's practical. Yeah. I mean, look, we'll save it for the episode, pal. Well, thank you again, listener, for coming.
Little preview.
At Pervert Pirate Party on Blue Sky at Butler's Ghost.
Subscribe so you can hear our talks about liberalism in the topical discussion.
Check out, that'll probably be on the Patreon too. But thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing if you are, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
To my knees, yeah.